Hi, I'm Alan Ross, and with me today on this webinar are our guests from Iris, Mark Paul and Nathan Harrison and Tony Cicero. Guys, thank you for joining us. I really appreciate this. We've got a lot to cover, and for those of you who are listening that you want to ask questions, for the most part, we will not break into the discussion unless you've got such a good question that I should break into it and then ask, especially if I'm interviewing Mark. As I'm talking to Mark and you want to break in question, that's okay, because that will then start the process. But we're going to talk today about a number of things, because one of the things I love about Iris is the company has a tendency to look at the marketplace, look at the problem. I know Martin Robinson, their founder, CEO, and current Middle East, you'll explain all of this, right, Tony? Middle East, India, and all-around guru, has a tendency first to look at the problem in the market, to educate the market, and then all of a sudden the products and services that Iris provides are a good fit for it, because they build them to fix a problem in the market, not for something to sell. So with that, gentlemen, I'd like you to start and give a little bit of a background, not a soliloquy, because sometimes when people ask me this, I'll say, well, I was born in a cabin, but I wasn't. So Mark, without much ado, talk about your role at Iris and a little bit about your background.
Alan, thank you very much for having us on here today. We at Iris are always excited to be able to share ideas and be thought leaders in industry and really help others understand some of the unique things that we've learned over the years. Sharing information actually is, one of the highlights of what we get to do. So my background is, well, I'll start with the position. So I'm the Global Vice President of Sales and Marketing for Iris, and I have the distinct opportunity and pleasure of helping run the company, to help Martin run the company as he runs around taking care of all the amazing things that he does. I help keep things kind of at bay here and do everything from the sales and marketing perspective oversight. And with that responsibility, it's been really great to work with amazing leaders. Some of them we have here on the call today, yourself as well, as we go out and really make a difference in safety and maintenance in the industry. My background is electrical engineering, and we've done a lot with taking some of the backgrounds that we've all had in different areas of expertise and really utilizing them to improve what we do at Iris.
I imagine what we do today is a lot different than what you were trained up in electrical engineering, because the power industry as a whole has changed dramatically, and that includes downstream, which is the industrials, commercials. I mean, data centers alone are changing everything. But I'm glad you got that double E background. I got an ME background, so all we care about is motors. You have to keep the motors running. Let's go to you next, Tony. Tony, talk a little bit about your role, and I think it's really funny. I hope in future things you remember me and say, yeah, Alan at a beach was whispering in my ear that I ought to come and do this, and I hope I had a little bit of a part in that.
I remember that well, very well. So hi everyone, Tony Cicero. I'm the VP for Business Development in the Eastern regions, as Alan alluded to. So that covers UK, Europe, Middle East, and APAC. And I think my role really is to deliver incremental growth within these regions through our innovative CBM solutions and highly skilled sales teams and specialist engineers. So I've been in the sales game for about 20 years now, predominantly in the sort of corporate and independent food service space, and dealing with B2B. And my last role at Cisco, who you may know of, I was leading sales teams for about 7 years and helping to create and develop sort of BDMs and managers in our major cities. And I am sort of 2 months in. So I just thought I'd throw that in there because of the questions I would imagine will come later.
No. You can't just say, oh, I can't answer that question because I'm only a few months in. Guys, let's all get some questions so that Tony can't answer that. Thank you, Tony. Nathan, talk a little bit about yourself. This is the first time I'm really face-to-face meeting you, right, Nathan?
Yeah, no, it is. And it's great to meet you, Alan. And Hi, everybody. My name is Nathan Harrison. I am the sales manager for our new product, eSentry. It is our 24/7 condition monitoring solution. I'm really just helping the charge on launching our new product, getting it in all the facilities around the world. It's very exciting. We're seeing a lot of traction already. And my background's really just software sales background, from like everything from benefits navigation to selling different types of software, really just around employee benefits. And then from here, just saw a product that's really shaking the industry as a whole, and couldn't be more excited to be a part of this team. And yeah, excited to be here with you
Excellent.
guys.
Now, given the fact that Iris is a leader in Windows with the ability to do IR, ultrasound, and partial discharge, then the smart window, which somebody's going to talk about. But given that, now you're into software. We're going to get ready for this question. Is the software sale the same as the hardware sale? Get ready for that. Mark, let's go to you first. We got Nathan set up. Right?
All right.
I want to talk about, I mentioned the idea that Iris, because of the nature of Martin Robinson, is a problem solver. The reason that the three of you are that forward-facing market development people, as opposed to having backroom engineers, is they typically talk about their product. What I know about the three of you, you talk about why there is a need for that product in the marketplace, which is what we're going to address. So, Mark, the first one we're going to talk about is, NFPA 70 has changed everything. NFPA had some recommendations, and those recommendations have now moved from recommendations to requirements, and OSHA will be focusing on those requirements. So if you don't do what's a standard, you're at risk. Talk a little bit about the major changes that you've seen, the important ones to NFPA 70B and 70E, right?
Alan, that's it's this topic that gets discussed occasionally, but probably not enough. And that is the fact that NFPA 70 sets a minimum requirement for safe electrical design. So the key word there I want to enforce is minimum. So many times people say, well, what about, the specifics, and how can we get by? How do we make sure that we're not violating the minimums? And I'm like, why would you even want to look at the minimums at anything? Like, that's never the place to start. You want to start with being exceptional. You want to be above and beyond what the average person is doing, and doing for safety reasons, especially. And that's really the core behind what NFPA is designed to do, is provide safety, not only for the workers, but for the companies as well. It keeps the companies safe by keeping their employees safe. It creates longevity and allows them to do long-term sustainable business. And that's what I think we're all here to help people do. And the NFPA is more commonly known as the National Electrical Code. And it's this standard that's been published by the National Fire Protection Agency, and it's updated every 3 years. So your point was that in 2023, a pretty substantial change was made to this document. And they transitioned, especially 70B, transitioned from a recommended practice to a fully enforceable standard now. And they changed the words like "you should" to "you shall." And when I first read through that, I said, let me dig into "shall" a little deeper here, because what "shall" is, it's the most legally enforceable term to say this is something we don't just recommend anymore. This is enforceable. This is something that you will do. And so now facilities are required to perform electrical maintenance programs with defined maintenance intervals, equipment condition assessments, formal documentation. These are all part of what is now being required. They're also pointing out you need to do infrared, ultrasound, vibration, partial discharge testing. Those are now mandatory on a set schedule of minimum yearly inspections at a minimum. And anything above and beyond that, you're just starting to do things the way you should be doing them.
Yeah. I think because I don't know everybody on here. I act sometimes like everybody should know me. My background is electric power reliability, and I ran that association for many years. I helped found it with Martin's help and the folks at SD Myers. And what I became passionate about was the balance between safety and reliability. They're just two sides of the same coin. But we could never get that across in the electrical. I mean, everybody knew how dangerous it was, right? This new code absolutely enforces that idea. So it's kind of like at the end of my career, they finally make something that I can talk about and say, you're going to do that. I had to spend 20 years telling people they should do that. But you're exactly right. Minimal, that's not what we talk about here. This is what they should be doing. You mentioned it, but I want to talk about it specifically. Arc flash. People don't realize the different damages that can happen to you with arc flash. It's not just you open, you get a little shock. Talk a little bit about arc flash and why it is so important to be able to prevent it rather than try to somewhat protect somebody from it. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you want to prevent versus contain, or try to take measures so that if it happens, you don't ever want to get to that point, because arc flash is an uncontrolled electrical explosion. So explosion is always, a scary term, and these are just some pictures to give you the idea. So the picture on the far left is the actual explosion occurring. The second picture shows the amazing fireball that can be created. And the picture on the far right shows what happened, what was left afterwards. And that's a concrete wall that was blown out by the impact. So not only are there temperatures that reach somewhere around 35,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 4 times the surface of the sun, that's a possibility. So the heat alone is obviously extremely damaging and dangerous. The high pressure wave, which is what created that wall to be blown out, it's called the arc blast. And you can throw a person across the room from that. It collapses eardrums. It damages lungs. Equipment can be blown apart. It creates shrapnel. Like, these are all major things. So even if you survive the burning with a specifically rated Cal suit, you could have lung damage from this impact of the explosion, eye damage from the flash. There's many, many things. So the biggest thing is you never want to get to the point where this could occur, if at all possible. Just the flash itself creates ultraviolet and infrared radiation. That's what damages the eyes typically, and also causes skin damage. Vaporized metal, so you've got copper in there. And when you vaporize copper, it creates a copper vapor. It's highly toxic to a human, and so these are the damages that an arc flash can result in. And anytime that happens, I mean, that you're looking at a lot of danger.
One of the things years ago, it used to be you wear a 50 cal suit, and then I think actually went up to a 100 cal suit. You recommend, you do that. If you've ever seen anybody in a 100 cal suit, you know what they look like? They look like astronauts. Their hands are in these gloves, right? And if you try to grab a screwdriver or a wrench to go work on something, you can't maneuver enough in them. And I think this was the big change with FPA. You can't be protected in a 100 cal suit. And they're expensive. And number two, they make you almost immobile. And I think it just became common sense. Hey, if you can't be protected, but here's what's even worse. I would venture to say that maybe 50% or more of the industrial commercial type people out there don't put on a 50 cal suit or a 25 because it's cumbersome. And they'll say, well, I've all done it this way. I've never really had a problem. Can aging equipment be more likely to have arc flash?
Absolutely.
Yes, because yes.
That
So
is
combine aging
it to happen.
Yeah. And it's a bad practice to try to go in without any protection. But that's a lot of what people do. Let me just go and do a quick IR, see if there's any heat in there. Something's to be going on. And that could happen like that. So that is a lot. I'm sorry to Mark and I go off on a tangent on this because we love it. But Tony, Nathan, anything since you've come to I know you're arc flash gurus now.
I'll
start with.
I'll kick off. So just what I found really obviously sad coming into this business is around sort of 400 arc flash deaths annually in the States. And there are countries like in India, for example, with less stringent safety protocols or weaker incident reporting, which will probably see higher rates. And some regions may even underreport due to sort of the classification under sort of broader electrical injuries. But the thing that really got me was, and why it's especially so dangerous, it can happen instantly with no warning. It happens in milliseconds. You can't even prepare for it. It doesn't require direct contact. So workers can be sort of several feet away and still be injured. And the saddest thing is that it's often preventable and usually caused by human error, poor maintenance, and unsafe procedures. So that was a sort of big takeaway that I sort of found coming into this industry.
Yeah, if you almost look
said
at
it
it,
perfectly.
that can't be true. Go ahead, Nathan. Sorry.
No, I just wanted to piggyback off with Tony because he said it perfectly, and really just to add on to, it's like part of the reason why Iris is such an industry leader in this, and like why I have so much conviction in the products we sell here, is because we quite literally save lives with the work that we do. And it is just so important for all these facilities to have these procedures in place. It's why NFPA 70B, what Mark was talking about, is becoming more and more necessary and mandatory across industries, especially in the States. It's because people's lives are at risk. No one wants to go to work, especially as a maintenance engineer working in a facility, and not being able to come home to their family because of something going wrong that was preventable at the very beginning. So I just wanted to piggyback off of what Tony said, because it's very important to get that point across.
You know, NFPA does not have an arm that can actually go around and enforce the standard. But you know what they have? The occupational safety, and they have OSHA. OSHA can go in and,
Right.
people get, but we know how many recordables. And to your point, Tony, we don't do anything. We make sure we report, because not reporting, trying to hide an incident, especially a major incident, can cause a company to be bankrupt. You can take them out of business because of that. So the rest of the world is getting there about worker safety. We are already there. So I applaud NFPA for what they've done to make it. Okay, now we're going to go into the why. So why Iris? What makes Iris unique and different for arc flash, for anything to help the maintenance engineer, the reliability person, the electrical engineers in the company? Why Iris?
You know, Alan, I think the thing that makes such a major difference, and what really attracted me when I first started to look at Iris and who they were as a company, was the fact they're not just making products to sell. They didn't just say, hey, where's the major need in industry, and let's produce those kind of products so that we can, jump in and make some money. Martin was first and foremost he was an active technician. He was in the field doing thermography work and saw a need for him to be more safe in what he was doing daily, and wanted that for not only himself, but for others. And the unique thing about Martin is that he didn't just say, okay, what's out there? Let's see how I can make something like this and sell it. He actually is an engineer's engineer. Like, he is really exceptional at what he does. I've been around engineers my entire career. I've never met one to the level of Martin. And by that, let me give you the best example I can tell you. Most engineers never have a patent in their name. It's less than 5% of all engineers. Martin, from the last count I had, has around 24. So it's exceptional, the knowledge and the expertise. And not only that, but his ability to have something so unique that it can be patented. And that is not an easy process. And so Iris contains a family of products and solutions that work together to provide ultimate safety in the electrical space. I've never seen anything like it. I've never seen products made to the quality and the standards and the certifications that the Iris products are. And every product that's brought into this mix is done so specifically to provide a better solution for the customer. And there are times where we've had discussions here where, is that the best product to provide? Is this going to help us in our overall, portfolio? And Martin says, it's the right thing to do. We're doing this because it's the right thing to do. This is something our customers need, to have all of this provided. We want to provide the best solution for our customers. He always goes back to doing things for the right reason, not always the financial best reason, but for the right reason for the customer. It's amazing to watch. It's amazing to see his mind in action in creating these products that are really revolutionary in the marketplace. We're first and foremost producing the best quality, the best product for the application that I've ever seen.
Just can I just build on that if you don't mind, Alan? So,
Oh, no.
so I think what Martin was really good at is he saw a dilemma, right? The dilemma was how could you possibly inspect the inside of switchgear meeting the standards of 70B, all without going against the standards of 70E? Right, so a real predicament. And through the safety devices and innovation, always sort of maintaining enclosed conditions, just making sure the personnel can complete essential maintenance inspections tasks efficiently and safely. It's what sets them apart, because whenever there's a change in the marketplace, the person that is first often wins, right? So our drive for innovation and predicting the marketplace is really what kind of sets us apart, the Iris.
Excellent. Nathan, anything to add in your young tenure there? You're seeing all this happen around you, because we're going to come to smart windows, so get ready for that.
Oh yeah, can't wait for that. And honestly, I can speak to the eSentry side. Really, I'm not a subject matter expert on the IR windows, but what I can say is like what makes Iris's solutions, especially the eSentry solution, is they're delivering real-time 24/7 condition monitoring without requiring technicians to expose themselves to energize equipment. Basically, what we were just talking about with the arc flashes, and what NFPA 70B is requiring. We're really pushing the safer, smarter maintenance maintenance practices for asset owners, safety managers, and just means fewer risks, fewer outages, and a measurable return on investment. Iris isn't really just trying to just solve the compliance problem. We're also simultaneously solving operational and safety challenges as well.
I haven't asked you that question yet. That's coming later. Ethan, you just answered the question. So get ready. I'm going to ask you a harder question in a little bit.
Okay.
Since that's her. I do want to go to you, Tony, talk about something different, because when I look at Iris, I see major opportunity, but I see major opportunities, right? So we have the Windows opportunity, the 70B opportunity. And the thing that has made Iris what Iris is, that's expansive growth and is happening. But then all of a sudden, we look to international growth, global growth, and MENA and India, and really is a lot different when you expand that opportunity, start looking at globally. Talk to me a little bit about that. When you think about growth, you can have growth this way. That's a product line growth, right? I'm growing that way. You could have growth this way. You're going to see my little thing here, Tony, right? Growth way where you're adding new products. Well, this is Iris. It just kind of grows in so many ways. Talk a little bit, if you don't mind, about the whole global expansion that you're responsible for.
So I'll talk about each region because they're all very specific in terms of the strategy and their needs. So with the UK market, for example, we talked about NFP 70 standards now in place in the US, right? And we're seeing substantial growth in our windows. UK is sort of typically 2 years behind. So we're expecting this wave to come, and we're at the moment just sort of laying the foundations in anticipation, educating through sort of creating partnerships with distributors, wholesalers, and end users alike. But I guess in the interim, you could say there's a real big challenge in the UK where we're really getting momentum with one of our products called Safe Connect. Around sort of £2.5 billion annually is lost due to preventable electrical failures. And the biggest contributor of that is loose connections. So when these issues happen, it can increase energy by like 15 to 30%. And that will lead to equipment failures and even shortening the equipment lifespan by something like 50%. So, and even electrical faults caused by poor connections, I think account for like 25% of commercial fires. And there's a big cost to that as well, right? So we have Safe Connect, which is really getting traction now. And it really tackles that issue. And it's basically a clip that you attach onto a cable or electrical asset, and it will permanently change color when a certain temperature is reached, right? And this really helps sort of tell a story in between inspections and can really save a business tens of thousands. And our distributors are really starting to buy into that. So that remains our focus around education. Europe, condition-based monitoring is increasingly essential in Europe, and it's not driven really by need as such. It's more around having a strategic advantage and sort of compliance and sustainability goals. So you've heard of Industry 4.0, where European industries are sort of rapidly digitalizing operations. You've got the smart manufacturing with smart factories in Germany, France, and Italy that use condition-based monitoring to enable predictive analytics and sort of integrate IoT platforms. And then you've got the big green transition wave and energy efficiency. As you'll know, Alan, Europe is a global leader in carbon neutrality goals. So we've got net zero by 2050, EU Green Deal, you've got the ISO 5001. And of course, our CBM solutions will improve energy efficiencies and directly support sort of their ESG targets. So we're heavily focused on that in Europe. With MENA, slight shift. So MENA, the Middle East is home to massive industrial operations with real high risk infrastructure, oil and gas refineries on and offshore. You've got petrochemical plants, manufacturing zones, and then you've got critical infrastructure. So desalination plants, power grids, these are real sort of high voltage, high complexity environments, and poor electrical maintenance can lead to those arc flashes we talked about, worker fatalities, and they carry also real sort of high costs of downtime, which can cost millions. And now with the regulated compliance and the Vision 2030 goals, so you've got countries like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, which I went to recently, are really sort of pushing these smart cities. And due to the ISO standards and global investor expectations, it's just more important than ever to be proactive and have safe maintenance. And that's where we come in, right? So our strategy in the Middle East is very much, we've got an office now in Qatar, we're setting up in Saudi, Bahrain, and we're looking to get a place in Abu Dhabi. Just of India, again, very different in terms of there are lots of cost pressures and ROI demands in India. Indian businesses are extremely cost sensitive. We all know that reactive maintenance is just so much more expensive in the long run due to sort of downtime, emergency repairs, and production losses. And they've also got really sort of aged and are overloading their infrastructure with some equipment that's sort of decades old, electrical and mechanical systems, and they're experiencing rapid industrial growth. So India's seeing huge growth in sectors like manufacturing, data centers, airports. And when I was over there a few weeks back, logistics parks, sorry. And the sector heavily depends on sort of uninterrupted power and equipment uptime. So our solutions have played a real key role in operational efficiencies. So the strategy in India is to get as many of our highly skilled technicians and specialist engineers, all with reliability, mechanical and condition monitoring backgrounds in these sectors to support like power manufacturing. We've already established our India company in India's Silicon Valley, Bangalore in 2024. And we're building an absolute epic customer-centric 24,000 square foot office within the next few months. So hopefully by year end, we'll have that. And then, of course, to finish up, really, you've got the regulatory and market alignment. So having an India company just helps us navigate sort of the local laws and build customer trust. So that's the plan.
It is. So you've got a heavy lift ahead of you. It's really funny. We're talking about Windows. I'm going to go to smart Windows. Then we're going to talk about eSentry, which is a whole different thing. And you mentioned something, a little clip that can go on there that we make that it changes color so that you can see if you had a problem there and how it can show loose connections, which are a huge problem everywhere. And then when you talk about something, the computer goes out, what they tell old people is, did you unplug it and plug it back in and it fixes itself, right? Well, the same is true. Did you do the simplest thing? Do you think you have a loose connection? Well, the best way to find it is to put a little clip on it. And when it changes color, you come back and you say, wait a minute, that thing, is it pink? Does it turn pink?
Yep.
Turns pink. And you come back and say, oh, there's a problem right there. It's heat transference. So Iris is just quite capable. And again, it's a Martin Robinson idea to say, how do we make it cost effective and simple and user friendly? And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But I'm going to ask you about challenges. But before I do that, I need to get Nathan on here to say again what he said before. No, Nathan, we have a new question. Okay, it's not going to be the same question for you.
Sounds
talk a little bit about, because the opportunity for eSentry, you're not a new company, but you're a new division of an existing company. And it is a different sale, maybe to a different person in the business, right? Talk a little bit about why eSentry is the time for eSentry is now, and how you're going to play in a very, very cluttered marketplace, right? You mentioned that a lot of people are CMMSs. This is a different sale. And when you walk in and say, hey, I got a software sale, people immediately say, you got to go talk to the IT people, or the CIO or whatever. And it'll take 9 years to get through that. But talk a little bit about why the time is right for eSentry. Why did you join?
So why I joined, I actually started first with the people I met. So my first introductions with Iris was Eric Thompson, who's leading the development of eSentry. Brilliant guy, very smart, and he's really just gotten it to a place where we have a viable product now that we can push out, and that is actually helping facilities to this day. And then the second person I met was Mark Paul. Got the opportunity to have lunch with them, and I was like, yes, this is exactly the type of team I want to work for. If these are the first two guys I'm meeting in the company, this is spot on. And then obviously learning more about the industry, learning more about the products that Iris was selling, I just saw that there was a huge gap in the marketplace of where eSentry could fit. And I'm probably jumping ahead with the problem we're really solving here with eSentry is just the traditional inspections. They're infrequent, they're manual, often unsafe, and that is creating these blind spots from maintenance routines. Issues can develop from in between inspection cycles. They can escalate into failures or accidents. And eSentry will just closes that gap by giving maintenance teams continuous visibility into asset health. It transforms inspections from a risky scheduled task into a safe, real-time, data-driven process. So it's just really a huge leap forward in both the safety and reliability sector, and that's what Iris is all about.
Talk a little bit about these 3D weird shaped things with an antenna there. Can go back to that slide, please. Because that doesn't sound like software. That's something. What is that? How does it fool?
A little bit more. Yeah, so we actually have 5 different sensors. So not all 5 are shown on there, but we have an STC sensor, surface temperature current sensor, an STS, which stands for surface temperature sensor, a DTU sensor, which is delta temperature with ultrasound. They can also get a delta temperature sensor, and then a basic temperature sensor. So right there, you can see all 5 of our sensors, they're tracking just temperatures of your electrical assets, everything from MCCs, transformers, the whole 9. If it's electrical, we can place our sensors on there. And as those goes on your assets, it will take that information, the data from there. So humidity, temperature, ultrasound, doing FFT sweeps through there from the 32 or 35 to 48 kilohertz of ultrasound of FFT sweeps, and then 10 to 100 FFT sweep on the ultrasound basis. And it takes all that information, connects to our gateway, which then goes up into the cloud and then connects to the software that you see there on your screen. And from there, you see an actual data-driven insight that your technician teams can see right there in the field and have any of their most critical assets wired up with our sensors and be able to have that information when they're not actually in front of the asset themselves. They can make sure they have another pair of eyes that are looking into their asset and making sure everything is running smoothly.
We have a saying in the Electrical Safety and Reliability Association, which Iris is one of the founding members. And that is the fact that if you can have the simplest possible solution, provide that. So putting a sensor on and then having that be the simplest possible solution, I think we got to keep going back, because some of the things of the thousands of opportunities out there for people I've seen, and I've seen probably most of them, are complicated. You do have to go through your IT department. You do have to go through your CIO. You do have, this one is thought of and designed for the practitioner. So Martin knows and has been around maintenance managers and now reliability engineers to know that they need a simple solution. Anyway, quick last question before we go to questions, because I got a couple that people sent in here. What are the challenges that you're going to have, Tony, for growth? You kind of mentioned them a little bit, but what is it looking ahead? What does it look like for you? And Nathan, that would company you, so get ready.
Okay.
So from my experience of the last few months, I think I was talking to Martin about it the other day, actually. Some of the biggest challenges that I feel we need to overcome are, first and foremost, we need to be educating a sort of risk-averse market. So a lot of our clients, or a lot of clients out there, especially in aging and sort of industrial plants, still rely on sort of traditional inspection methods that require PPE, dangerous sort of open panel inspections and sort of costly shutdowns. Trying to convince them to adopt it into windows, ultrasound sensors, etc. Means sort of changing long-standing habits and overcoming that "we always done it this way" mindset. And it's a real slow process, but we are completely focused on our relentless pursuit for sort of unconditional safety. I think the second challenge really is, and I found this particularly challenging coming into this, is there's a real complex stakeholder environment. Buyers are often a mix of sort of reliability engineers, sort of maintenance supervisors, safety officers, procurement, and they've all got different priorities. So it just makes it hard to create like a unified message that kind of resonates with all of them. So we are invested in our sort of talented sales teams and just training them to make sure that they're well prepared to support any economic buyer with their needs, and just collaborate more internally, more than ever, to utilize all the sort of specialist expertise that we've got. But the last challenge really is around channel partner education and alignment as well. So, distributors, reps, may not fully understand the IRIS value proposition. So if partners can't clearly explain the benefits or even demo the product, it just reduces market penetration. So this requires real sort of ongoing training, certification, and sort of marketing support to just make sure that everyone's aligned.
Excellent. Yeah. For you, Nathan?
Yeah, it's pretty similar to Tony's with the education piece. I think the moment I'm like bringing up the software, I've been on a bunch of calls now, seen a couple conferences, and I keep hearing about like everyone's still in this reactive maintenance mindset, and they're really underestimating the real costs of downtime and safety incidents. So really educating them of how our software is built. Like, we understand companies have a CMMS. We understand they have an EAM. And when I show these technicians the software and show that we built it with the technician in mind, and we also understand the compliance aspect, it's fully built for the technician. And when they see it, they're like, oh, this is a lot different, and this is so straightforward. You touched on it, Alan, where like CMMSs have a bunch of fluff. EAMs, they're not full. They have all these like bells and whistles that they're paying for, and usually they're paying a hefty cost for that as well. So what Martin did is he wanted a software that was very cost effective, and it's as straightforward as it can be. The moment that technician walks up to that asset, they understand what needs to be done, and they can just follow a checklist that follows the pass-fail criteria, that has the category 1 up to 3 from criticality. And really, it's just once I show these technicians that system and how eSentry works, it usually speaks for itself. So education is really the factor.
Yeah, unfortunately, the technician doesn't have authority to spend money. Then you got to convince that person's boss. If you get them on site, then the bosses are much more likely to come along, because it's hard to hire technicians today. There's not a lot more
Right.
people coming in. So the retirement of technicians is a huge problem in the marketplace. We're going to talk about that. Mark, anything that you see for any of these areas that a challenge that we've not discussed?
So the only thing I really want to add on to all of this is that you started by asking Tony about, market presence. How do you build market presence? How's Iris building market presence? And how do we expand and continue to expand in the way that we are rapidly? And really the key there is that there's some rather straightforward areas that you have to focus on. Understanding market dynamics. We talked about that a few times already, where we talked about, seeing the customer, the insights that they have, taking those insights back and redesigning or creating a product maybe specifically based on those insights. So that's a key part of building market presence, which we are doing very well. Brand positioning, showing the value proposition of the product and being consistent in our delivery of product and in the quality and in the type of excellence of the product that we're providing. It's a key part of building market presence. Strategic market execution, where you've got strategies and measuring of performance to make sure you're always growing and taking things in the direction based on market demand. You brought up simplicity, and that's one of the things that we sent some of our guys out to AWS last year to learn a little bit about. They have an annual conference and they talk about, the latest and greatest in everything technology. They were talking about how IoT is dead. And the real thing now is, how do you get data and use it so that something can be valuably done with it? You got all this information coming in from all these sensors, all these IoT points. What do you do with it? And it was really great because Nathan just used the word data-driven insight is what eSentry provides. So you take all this data and you provide valuable insights. We have an AI assistant that's part of eSentry that can take some of this and give you something back. So that's part of the strategic market execution as well. Part of it's leadership and influence. So one of the things that I'm super proud to be on this panel between Tony and Nathan, they are exceptional in their leadership influence. They are clearly able to talk about ideas and concepts and strategies and market and all the rest of the things so we're not just saying, here's product XYZ, but what do you need? What does the customer need? Let's find a solution for that. Let's work together to provide a solution. And it may be very unique to that individual customer, but we're here to work together and provide that thought leadership that will help them provide, at the end of the day, a safe environment for their workers. And the last part of what is part of market presence is adaptability, and innovation. Having the ability to create unique and ideas that are not common, that being in the blue ocean space of business and swimming where others have dared to swim in the past. That's really what we do at Iris, and we're exceptional at doing that because the end of the day, we care about the customer, and that's important.
And I think at the end of the day, you really do care about that practitioner. That picture that was up there at the very beginning of the stud, we'll call them, right? And it's the idea that these guys are out there in harm's way. I've thrown it out there, and I'd like all three of us. This is a question that came in. You mentioned smart windows. What is a smart window? Quite simple. So I'll start. I don't even know which one it's under. Here, it's under Iris.
Heart Worship, I believe it's an eSentry product as well. So I could take this one because I've actually mentioned this when we first built the prototype. I actually got myself in trouble for my first call because I brought it up to the gentleman of what's coming. It was a technician that was interested in eSentry, and I brought up the smart window because we had the prototype already built out. And I mean, he couldn't fast enough try and order it like that right then on the call. And it is in development. We're going to have that production here very soon. But really, it's just a combination of everything Iris is about. Our bread and butter is the IR windows. And with eSentry hitting the market now, it's a combination of both of them. So you will have all 5 of those sensor capabilities built into an IR window itself. So it's bringing in that full proactive maintenance routine into one, having a built-in window on your electrical asset that is also having the 24/7 monitoring solution already designed in place on there that's wired in and connects you right to the eSentry system or your CMMS and giving you that data even when you're not in front of that asset.
That's going to be a winner. If anybody, Tony or March to add to that, you did a great job, Nathan. Now I think I know what smart window.
Appreciate it. It really wraps up everything NFPA. It's kind of how you started this whole call, Alan, on the importance of NFPA, why NFPA should be of concern and of high priority for everyone out there. Anyone who has electricity coming into their commercial facility, industrial facility, they need to be aware and proactively doing things to comply to NFPA. The smart window is really the game changer in the industry by far because it's something that's never been done. We own the patent on it. It can't be done by anybody else. And so we're taking a product that is already well established and accepted in the industry, which is an infrared window, adding technology to that. We've already got windows with sensors in it, but here now we have all the technology. We have everything wrapped into this. We can now remotely monitoring what's being gathered at that point of access where that window is mounted through a system of eSentry back into their CMMS, whatever they need. It'll be Modbus compatible in case they want to tie it into their existing systems. Like all of these things built into one window at a very reasonable price. It's really taking infrared inspections, ultrasound inspections, data collection, the ability to do visual inspections, complying to all the NFP requirements, keeping records of all these things, putting into one very easy to install, very quick to adapt and put into your existing systems, providing you all the necessary things to be compliant. I think it's it is the perfect match for all of those requirements.
Excellent. Tony, anything to add?
I'm in danger of recycling all the good stuff that you guys have said, but all I will say is, for me, it's like if I look at my previous experience in the food service industry, where they excelled in their industry was they were a one-stop shop for all their customers' needs. That's exactly what Iris in the sake of reliability industry. We have the one-stop shop for your needs, and with all that, we can still reduce your carbon footprint as well. So, all the benefits, of course, of Iris.
Excellent. We've got a little bit more time. I'm going to get you one more question. We might do both of them. So you have Iris, the bread and butter. I think Nathan said that the bread and butter is the window, the IR window. I know you do a lot of business with OEMs. That's not the question. I'm saying that. But is it possible to retrofit existing cabinets that are out there? They're not buying new cabinets. So is it possible to retrofit existing cabinets with Iris windows?
Absolutely. That's the easiest way is to, just install a window into an existing cabinet. But there's actually another way that's really unique once again to what Iris offers, and that's a custom solution, meaning there's many facilities that can't afford the time to take a panel off, set it on some workbenches, cut a hole in it, mount the window, put it back on. They don't have those kind of time. They can't shut equipment down for that long. We actually offer a program where they can take a panel off and put the new panel on with the window already installed in it, because we build those specifically to the specifications that they send us. So we can build a custom panel replacement so that they can just say, hey, I have this existing cover, panel, door, whatever it may be. I'd like one exactly the same with window or windows mounted on it. And that way the downtime is literally minutes to actually take the old panel off, put the new panel on, they're back up and running. So there's a couple different ways to do it, but that's really unique in the industry, finding more and more traction. Some people have gear that's pretty identical. And so they may have, say 20 panels that are the exact same. And so they can actually put in one of our replacement panels, take the old panel off, put it into the replacement panel, modify that first panel, and then put it on their second panel, and then just stagger them down through that process too. So there's a variety of ways. We love to help, be the best solution for the customer. They tell us what the parameters are. We'll work with them to provide that for them.
Okay. I think we should change smart window to, I was just thinking of this while you were talking, we should call it magic window because it's like it does all this wonderful magic. Okay, I know we're not going to do that because the whole electrical world's gone to smart cities. I was a member of the IEEE smart grid community for about 4 years, and everybody was using smart. That's why smart windows is the name. Last but not least, because I don't want to run over time here, but last but not least, each of you has a part to play in, and it's interesting. Each of you has a different part to play in it. I know Mark, Tony works. I think Tony reports to you. Nathan reports to you. You've got a lot of this global oversight doing that. What is the biggest challenge that you're going to face as the company grows in so many different areas? I mean, it could explode with India and the Middle East. What is the greatest challenge to your leadership, which is also the greatest challenge to Martin's leadership?
The greatest challenge I have is to develop other leaders. It is really the key in business, period, is great leadership. Everything rises and falls on it. And so one of the things that Martin has done extremely well is surround himself by high quality individuals and giving them leadership. He is so good at empowering other people to do what he's asking them to do. And so I now have the same responsibility for my teams is to do that exact same thing. Find and develop leaders, empower them to do things that is best for the customer and for the company, and now help others do the same. And so that's that progression. It's that trickle down effect of leaders developing leaders, and then that competency that gets created and that unity that gets provided in that sphere of influence is critical for future growth.
That's excellent. So he's talking about you, Tony, and you, Nathan. He's saying, hey, hire exceptional leaders. Now you ought to look at him and say, well, you hired an exceptional leader. Now, what are my challenges? But I think both of you, we know what your challenges are globally, and we know what your challenges are with eSentry. Gentlemen, is there any last comment that any of you would like to make to do closing comments on this? We have basically 2 minutes, and I'm going to use a minute of it. So, Nathan?
Yeah, I can jump in real quick. I just want to thank you for this opportunity. One of the things I didn't even get to mention of eSentry and like how it ties in with the rest of Iris as well is the best way to look at these sensors and the system overall is smoke alarms for your assets. We always will need the human individual themselves to do the manual inspections of like an infrared inspection and an ultrasound inspection to actually see what's truly going on. Like these sensors are like a push notification smoke alarm sensor that when the thresholds pass, you get that trigger. Hey, something's not right in that asset. So it's up to the technicians themselves to go in, and that's why those IR windows are so necessary. And the smart window is even more exciting is because we still need that human to go up, look in the asset themselves to see what's wrong and take the next step to make sure everything goes smoothly.
Yeah, we're not taking away jobs because that job is still going to be there. We're just allowing them to do so much more with the time that they've got. I don't know that there's an organization I know that has completed their maintenance requirements in a year. They always leave like 40, 50% that has to roll over to the next quarter of the next year. Tony, last thoughts?
Just from me, a big thank you, Alan, for inviting us and myself. Obviously, my first one, been a couple of months, but I'm just super excited about the future of Iris. And it's great to be part of a company where they have a purpose that truly matters. There's nothing better than saving lives and empowering safety. So thank you.
That's it. And I'll end with this. Martin and I were sitting down at one of the conferences, and we came up with the concept of the Electric Safety and Reliability Association, a 501c6 company based in the United States that basically is an education. That's all we want to do. We want to educate the market. But the thing that really struck the chord was there's a thing in reliability called ODR, operator-driven reliability. That's kind of a standard. we can't even get there. It's been hard to get people to get to operator-driven reliability. Because operators say, I don't want more work on me, and maintenance people say, I can't train them. That's not their job. And it becomes just a headache within the reliability world, and SMRP and Reliability Web. Martin and I have been at all of those conferences. And then the idea was, reliability and safety are two sides of the same coin. So it's really about operator-driven safety and reliability, ODSR. And I know that there's going to be some training available starting in India, and then it is now certification training to be trained as an ODSR technician. To throw that on top of all of the other new things that you guys have to do, let me throw that on, because I think that's a game changer long term. Operator-driven safety and reliability. Hey, this has been an APC Media webinar. It's been brilliant. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it so much. And we are out from Iris and APC Media.